Candy Wolgamott and Thomas Kitchen. Mr. Kitchen with counsel. Ms. Smulders is here on his behalf. And this is a date and time set for a show cause in this matter. In the meantime, since the show cause was filed, there's been a ex parte order for extended parenting time. There's an objection filed to that. That's going to be heard in a week by Judge Dykeman.
Can you give me the date of that? Just because I guess my client did get some sort of restricted mail, but I'm guessing because Candy's not represented, she didn't send me anything.
All right, it's on the 27th at 1:15.
Okay, thank you.
And that's with Judge Dykeman.
Okay.
And today's proceedings are concerning a complaint that was filed by Mr. Kitchen alleging violation of parenting time order on or about 2/17 and 2/20 of this year. Ms. Smulders, do you want to address that at this time?
Yeah, Your Honor. And I would note this isn't the first time this has happened. This is the first time that my client was able to get a parenting time complaint pushed through, just because the meeting location is so far away. Other times when Ms. Wolgamott denied parenting time or texted him, he didn't actually drive the hour and a half or whatever it takes to the meeting location. And that is what Ms. Herman from front of the court said he had to do in order to, to push through a parenting time complaint. So I just want to say that first, but essentially it's the weekend of the 17th of February through, I believe it's the 20th. And what happened is what's happened every single time before, really, is that he'll get last minute notice that, she's not going to allow the child to go with him for his parenting time, come up with one of the several other different, excuses for that. This time my client did actually his wife, I should say, but did drive to the meeting location, showed proof of being there, has a receipt, time stamped, etc. And she did not show up. It looks like the excuse was that the child was sick. Fast forward to the 20th, she's claiming she's bringing the child to the ER. None of that happened. A police officer did do I believe, just like a welfare check and indicated that the child looked just fine. And so, we are requesting makeup parenting time. Of course, we're kind of in a interesting situation because now my client does have extended parenting time too, based on the ex parte. But either way, I don't know how the future is going to play out, but either way, he would like sanctions against her and the makeup parenting time and attorney fees and costs.
All right. What's the nature of your parenting time at this point?
I have him full time as of right now.
Well, I know right now. I guess back on 2/17, what was your parenting time?
Every other weekend.
What time does it begin?
It's actually around 7 o'clock on Friday, and then we drop them off at noon on Sunday.
All right. Where do you meet on Friday?
Lake City, Wesco.
Where do you live?
I live in Lewiston.
How far is that?
Roughly an hour and a half.
And did you appear on the 17th at the Lake City, Wesco?
No.
Who did?
My wife did. Due to my work schedule, she always does pick up and I always do drop off. So this is the normal. She goes on Friday. By the time she gets back, I'm out of work, and then I go on Sunday to drop him off.
All right. Ms. Wolgamott did not appear on that Friday, February 17th?
That is correct.
All right. And your wife went to do the pickup. You're reasonably certain that she went to the Wesco and was there for some period of time waiting?
Absolutely. Well, when we did the complaint, we sent in where her iPhone actually pings at her location. And then I believe my wife went in as well and bought something and got a physical receipt.
All right. And those were attached to the complaint. And Ms. Wolgamott never appeared with the child on that date?
Correct.
All right. Ms. Smulders, any other questions for your client?
No, Your Honor.
All right. It appears, and Ms. Wolgamott's not here to defend herself, but it does appear that she did violate the order on 2/17 of 2023. Maybe this is her. Somebody just chimed in. Could be my 10 o'clock too. Let's double check. All right, Ms. Wogemon will be held in contempt for violation of the order on that date. There'd be $100 contempt fine payable to the circuit court clerk within 30 days. $50 in costs for the gas expended, payable direct to the defendant within 30 days. And Ms. Smulders, what's a reasonable amount of attorney fees?
I'm $200 an hour, Your Honor, and I did about hour and a half or so.
All right, $250 attorney fees payable within 30 days. Makeup parenting time really isn't relevant at this point because of that ex parte order granting Mr. Kitchen extended parenting time with the child. So he's had the child pretty much exclusively, right, for a couple weeks
For-
here, at least.
I think it was just a week, but yeah.
Okay, well, that was signed on the 14th, so yeah, I guess a week. I guess I'll put in 2 days makeup parenting time. That'd be Friday, Saturday, 2 overnights of makeup parenting time.
Okay.
And is there anything else to address today?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, should be all set. Shelton?
All right, thank you.
All right, yep.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
aye.
Yep, bye.
And ma'am, you're Ms. Weck?
Yes, I am.
All right. So we'll proceed then. This is a date and time set for hearing by friend of the court, matter is set for a show cause, based on a complaint that was filed alleging denial of parenting time. Both raise your right hands. You both swear or affirm any testimony you give in this cause to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
All right, sir, what led you to file the complaint with the friend of the court?
Mrs. Weck refused to let me take my kids on a Saturday or on a Friday. And then proceeded to not let me have my kids with telling me that CPS was informed her not to let her take the kids. And then after a few days of nothing coming about of the CPS charges, Mrs. Weck still denied me a parenting time again on Wednesday. And I then tried to get a hold of CPS, tried to figure out what's going on because I wanted to get this solved before my next parenting time. During that time, I didn't get anywhere, didn't hear nothing from anybody. Mrs. Weck then proceeded to tell me she wasn't going to let me take them again on a Wednesday. I then told her that I hadn't heard anything from CPS, and from what I understood, CPS needed to contact me within 72 hours of any incident being charged with anything, and that I'm going to come down with the law enforcement and get my kids if I needed be. At that point, she did let me pick up my daughter that morning, and I have had parenting time since.
All right, so you alleged that on February 17th, that was a Friday, you were denied parenting time?
Yes, sir.
What time were you supposed to start parenting time on that day?
Well, the kids didn't have school that day, so I was hoping that I could grab them that morning. There was President's weekend, so they had Friday and Monday off. So I was hoping to have them in the morning, and Mrs. Weck said no.
Your order says from before school until 6 p.m. on alternating Fridays?
Yes, sir.
Was that one of the alternating Fridays?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then Wednesday from after school until 7, is that, was that the 22nd?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, ma'am, do you agree that you denied parenting time on the 17th in violation of the order that says he's supposed to have parenting time from before school until 6 p.m.?
Can you say that again? That was his weekend, and per the standard parenting time, if it's a holiday, if it's a Friday in question, he would get them at 3 p.m. as if they were in school until that Sunday at 7 p.m. And yes, I did deny. Well,
This says father shall have parenting time from before school until 6 p.m. on alternating Fridays. So you don't feel that you violated the parenting time order because of holiday parenting time?
no, that's confusing because from before school on Friday, they're typically in school on Fridays.
Yeah.
And that day happened to be a holiday. So I told him originally that he could pick them up at 3 p.m. and that was his weekend. So he would have them traditionally until 7 p.m. on Sunday, not just until 6 p.m. on Friday.
All right, where'd you come up with the 3 p.m. on Friday?
The standard parenting time, it said that for the Fridays in question is a holiday, the pickup time would be 3 p.m. I have the order too. I got that information from the standard parenting time.
All right, but February 17th wasn't one of the holidays recognized in the policy, though.
Yeah, that was a school holiday or a school day
That
typically.
so that wouldn't apply to that then.
Okay,
The policy the only holidays that are specifically outlined in the policy are subject to that provision.
okay. But yes, I did deny parenting time on that day. I was alerted at 11 a.m. By the individual who submitted the CPS case that it had been turned in and that it was being investigated. While I was on the phone with her, CPS, the CPS caseworker did show up at my house. She interviewed me. She went through my entire house. The children were home. She did not interview them at that time. I had all of them. I'm including an extra child at that point. Upon conversation after she interviewed me, I did show her videos in question. I don't even know what was put in the CPS case. She asked when the children went to their dads again. I did tell her 3 p.m. She said that it's typically a recommendation. I was alerted that it was typically a recommendation that until the child has a CAC interview that they don't go, that she could not tell me to break the court order, but that is the typical advisement of the CPS department is to keep them. I said, I did tell her like if that was going to be something that was advised, if she could reach out to friend of the court so that at least they know. I provided her Heather Jordan's contact information, Rachel's, and then Rebecca's. And she was able to make contact with Rachel and let her know that there was an open CPS investigation. So that is the recommendation that I took. Then that following Wednesday, and I'm not sure the date of it at that point, or without looking at my calendar, I've continued following that recommendation because my child was not interviewed with CAC until the next Friday. So 7 days later, nothing was disclosed. And because there was nothing disclosed at that point, then I did receive confirmation from the CPS that they were not able to, the recommendation was no longer valid, that they didn't recommend keeping the kids. And at that point, then I resumed Mr. Shelton's parenting time as noted.
All right. Did they ever mention motion for an ex parte order?
They said that was an option, but because by the time on a Friday to get an ex parte written and then in front of a judge, it was so late.
That's really your only remedy would be to attempt to have
Right.
the order changed to avoid a finding of contempt.
Correct.
The CPS worker was right. They can't tell you to violate an order. They can make a recommendation, but they should also say, ex parte relief may be available if you file a motion to have that considered, because then at least the court can look at it and say, yeah, maybe parenting time should be put on hold while this is pending, or maybe not. But you didn't take that step. What were the allegations that led to CPS being involved?
I have not seen the report and I have not been alerted to the full extent. My understanding it is that it was sexual related. Mr. Shelton has sent me videos of the children naked, either videos or pictures of them naked. Our oldest is almost 9, so she's developing. And then my oldest has actually videotaped herself on a cell phone that Mr. Shelton has provided her that are very provocative and concerning videos. And then I'm assuming that's what it was turned in by. I'm not sure what was disclosed by my daughter to the person who turned it in. I did not turn in the CPS case. I did not file it.
But they did do the interview at your house with Abby there, correct?
Abby did not turn this in. CAC did not, or CPS did not have any conversations with Abby at that time.
Okay, that's what Demi told me. That's the reason I asked. She said that Abby was at the house and they interviewed her and you and everybody else. So
no, they did not have any interviews with anyone other than myself, but they did go through my entire house at that time. And Abby was there, but Abby did not turn in the CPS case and I did not turn in the CPS case. So I still to this day don't know what was fully turned in or what the allegations were.
I ordered it. I actually have the lady sending it to me. It has to go through process. So they just came to my house the other day and I found out what they were trying, or whoever filed what they were trying was pictures that I sent. It was actually a video of my daughters jumping on a trampoline in the summertime with the sprinklers on. They had soap, took Dawn dish soap and put it all over the bottom of the trampoline and was jumping all over, slipping and sliding and having fun. I did take the video and send it to Mrs. Weck, and I said, look, I can't keep clothes on them here either. Because prior to the day of this, my Tiffany FaceTimed me and Mrs. Weck FaceTimed me while my kids were jumping in and out of a water trough naked. And so, we were getting along at the time. We were actually being kind of cordial to one another. I was trying to involve her in, our kids' lives and what they're doing here. And the person or people, whoever it is that took this and actually made it kind of sick because it's summertime. They're my kids. CPS worker. She showed up and told me the trampoline is in my backyard. It's not exposed to the road. I was the only person home. She never seen any reason that it should have been explored any further. Matter of fact, she told me stories about her son running around naked till the age of 4. And then the other charges that were brought up were I was forcing my daughter to sleep in my bed. And that is completely false. And the CPS worker found out that it was false. After she interviewed my daughter, she found out that the only place my daughters sleep are on a mattress, a king size mattress that I carry into my living room, usually on the weekends that I have them, put it on the floor in the living room. I sleep on the couch or in my bed. The kids either sleep in their own rooms or they sleep out there. We have popcorn and movie night. The CPS worker told me that's exactly what Demi told her. And my story matched up identical to what Demi said. Whoever's doing this, and I have a feeling it is my oldest daughter, Mrs. Weck has been misguiding my oldest daughter, one of my older daughters in this case for a while. And it's getting to a point where I feel I got to carry a body camera on me anytime I have my kids, because Mrs. Weck will take any little tiny thing I might not do perfect and try to turn it into what this is. Every time. This is not the first time I've been in court or had to have a hearing dealing with these situations. And it's hard because my kids they're taking it hard. They're not having the parenting time that they want with me because I feel like I can't, I feel like I can't even hug my kids without feeling like I'm doing something wrong. It's getting ridiculous. I did order like I said, from CPS, the order, but it's goes through a bunch of paperwork, she said. And once I find it, I get it, I'll address, I'll probably seek other avenues after I find out what's going on. But I'm to the point where it's so scary to get my kids. Mrs. Weck is not friendly to me whatsoever. She does not give me a second longer with my kids at any point in time. I asked for, can you do something for me? Or, can we pick up, like yesterday, I asked if she could pick up my kids from the house so that I could spend a few more minutes with them. It's actually closer for her to come to my house and grab them. And I understand it. If that's where she wants to go, to McDonald's, I just was reaching out to her, trying to make amends. I need her to be friendly to me, and I need to be friendly to her. And our kids are actually really suffering from this, sir. I can't stress it enough. I talk to my daughters. I let them know that I'm always here. They need me. Mrs. Weck will not let them call me at all, ever. I did supply my daughter with a phone, and Miss Weck has still got it to this day, will not return me my phone. She said there was evidence on it that she needed. Miss Weck still has not returned that phone to me, and I've actually ended up purchasing another phone for my daughter because I told her they could have one. And when I gave it to Mrs. Weck, she allowed it to happen. I was in Idaho elk hunting on a hunting trip, and I gave it to my kids so they could continue to talk to me whenever they needed to or reach out to me. And Mrs. Weck on the very first day told me that she's blocking me. I'm not allowed to talk to my kids. I went 2 weeks without even being able to talk to my kids at that point. This is before it all got involved with friend of the court. So it's been a battle every single time with my kids. I don't understand why I couldn't pick up my kids Friday. She had to work. That Friday was a day off. That Monday was a day off. I don't understand how this has to be so hard on us and the kids.
All right, at this time, based on the evidence presented, I would find Ms. Weck in contempt for violation of the order on those two occasions. With the explanation, there would be an order directing the parties to comply with court orders hereafter, and Mr. Shelton would be granted 12 hours of makeup parenting time. Can you guys figure out when that 12 hours will occur?
Yes, we can.
I would like to do it this next weekend if I could, please.
This next weekend, so this next weekend is not your weekend?
No, I just had them this weekend, and I'd like them the following weekend, if I could, please. It's their
For 12
spring break.
hours.
For 12, how come it's 12 hours? I missed a whole over the weekend. I got a
My understanding, you missed the day on Friday, and then you missed Wednesday after school till 7 p.m.
I missed Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Oh, you missed the whole weekend?
She took the whole weekend from me.
Oh, okay.
And sir, that's what I was trying to explain was he missed from Friday until Sunday at 7 p.m. That's what I was trying to explain at the beginning. And I am fully aware of that. I would like 7 days of writing if we can do that. I know, does that comply with the court, or does just putting it here in this hearing that's
It'll be in an order.
I mean, that's fine. He can have this weekend, the 25th, or I think it's the 25th.
Okay.
That's fine. He can have this weekend. My next question is, outside of this court or outside of this topic is, how do we enforce support? Do I have to file something to enforce support? Right now, he's $4,500 behind in child support. And then, he's also harassing via the parenting time app, and he's been calling me at 3 a.m. So do I handle that through the front of the court?
I can only deal with the issues that are properly noticed for today. If you have an issue with child support, you can contact your support enforcement worker. If there
Okay.
are other things you want addressed, you can file a motion or complaint if you wish.
Sir,
Fantastic.
I'm actually in the process of refinancing my house, and as soon as I get that up, okay.
I'm not dealing
Okay.
with it. I dealt with the issue that was up for today. You'll have this coming weekend, this whole weekend as makeup parenting time.
How about that Monday
at the
too, sir?
times that are normally in the order for weekend exchanges.
Thank
Can
you.
I have that, she also owes me a Wednesday. Can I have that Monday, that following Monday too? Because they're out of school. Can we just roll that
That's
Wednesday?
no, I don't agree to that only because it is, you can have next Wednesday, which is typically spring break. So I agree to this weekend as your makeup weekend. And then next Wednesday as your makeup Wednesday for the dinner time,
This
which
next
is,
Wednesday, there's in school.
no, next Wednesday, they are in next week, which is 10 days from now, they're on spring break, which is my spring break. So I agree to this weekend, which is the 25th, the weekend of the 25th. And then the following Wednesday, which is my spring break, he can have them for dinner time, which is the makeup for Wednesday. I agree to that.
So the spring break would normally supersede the Wednesday parenting time because we don't want to have people if they go out of town come back for the evening parenting time. So that would be the makeup then would be next weekend, which is not normally yours, would be the makeup for the weekend, and then the Wednesday that you would not ordinarily be entitled to because of spring break, you would have that as well as makeup Wednesday.
Okay, that sounds great.
And I thought, well, that's
All right,
dumb.
well
Why did I
said,
do
then.
that? But they were right. They said, you said it. I said, okay.
Well, it got us moving. I don't think it was dumb at all. I think it was really smart. I sent Ms. Barnes last week a proposed stipulation and order which would effectively conclude the case. And she sent me back some requested changes, which I'm in the process of making all of the changes that she requested. We've been able to determine through this process that we have just a few issues still lingering out there that we could use the court's assistance with. One of them has to do with something that Ms. Barnes and I did not talk about, which is the medical dependency order that I got from my client. It was sent to his employer. He does not sign up for insurance because he's still eligible to be on his parents' insurance. And my understanding is that the mother is insuring the child. So I'm not sure why we have to have him take out a policy for the child as well if she's already doing that. He's paying a very significant amount of support, and to now require him to also do the medical, I think is somewhat of a hardship. We also have an issue that we thought we would put to you about the right of first refusal. That appears in the Nuevo policy anytime a custodial parent can't care for the child for 4 hours or more. And we've noticed that every few Saturdays, Miss Dietrich is working. And so we requested that she offer the child to his dad for the day if she knows that she's got to work 4 hours or more, but that's contested. And then I wrote to Miss Barnes this morning and asked her if Miss Dietrich would consider changing the child's last name to Beach. So other than that, we pretty much have put together a stipulation that would effectuate the Nuevo County parenting time policy. Sorry, the Nuevo County reasonable parenting time policy. We basically put it into an order that details out exactly when the parenting time will be each year until the child turns 2, or actually till he turns 3. So we stop our changes at 2 years old. So those are just the few things I was hoping that we could resolve today.
Ms. Barnes, response?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. First of all, I apologize, Ms. Bregman. I have not seen the email from you this morning regarding changing the last name. It's my understanding my client's position is going to be that obviously Mr. Beach has the right to be added to the birth certificate, but we are not in agreement to change the child's last name. With regard to the medical dependency order, I don't have a copy of that. I have no idea what that's about. So I would ask that Ms. Bregman share that with me, and I'm happy to see what our options are because I don't know the answer to that. I do acknowledge that Ms. Bregman did send me a stipulation and order last week. I did make a number of requested changes. I appreciate the fact that she's indicated that she's going to make those requested changes. And I do agree that the sticking point at this point, Your Honor, is the right of first refusal. I acknowledge that the Newaygo County policy is to usually implement the right of first refusal, but here's my issue with that policy. My issue is that these individuals live an hour and a half apart. So if in fact my client has to work on a Saturday and has to be there at 7 o'clock in the morning, she's going to have to leave her house at 5:15 in the morning to drive to the meeting point to be there at 6. Hope that Mr. Beach is on time, exchange the child, and then drive 45 minutes back so that she can get to work on time. And that'd get her there at 6:45 for a clock in at 7. And that's assuming that there's no bad roads, bad weather, things like that. My other issue is that, so the point is that makes an incredibly long day for everybody involved, especially for the minor child. My other issue is we run into consistent and continuous litigation when we have a right of first refusal. Because if Ms. Bregman is advised by her employer that she's only supposed to come in and work for 3 hours, and then they decide, oh, we're going to have everybody stay and work 4.5 or 5. Now, Mr. Beach is going to file litigation because she didn't give him the right of first refusal. We also run into a problem when she's scheduled to work 4 hours and they run out of parts and she gets sent home after 3, then the right of first refusal never should have come into play. So all it does is set these clients up for ongoing litigation as we go forward. I would be more inclined to encourage my client to participate in the right of first refusal if these individuals lived in the same community. But given this hour and a half drive difference between them, understanding that they're supposed to meet at a halfway point, I just don't see the right of first refusal as a reasonable policy to implement on these individuals. So I'm asking that the court give us instruction that we do not have to include the right of first refusal in our stipulation and order.
Ms. Bregman, any response?
Well, I think that some of the arguments really are kind of silly here. If she gets called into work for 2 hours and ends up working 4, Mr. Beach is not filing any litigation. She had no control over that, and she thought she was only working 2. I mean, if he's filing litigation, he's not doing it with me. I can tell you that, because that's just silly. So I think that the policy is based on whether or not she knows she has to go to work for 4 hours or more on a Saturday. And if she knows that she has to go for 4 hours or more, then I think the policy applies. And I don't really see a good reason not to do it. They could arrange to meet someplace else on those days if necessary. Maybe Mr. Beach could do more of the drive, come further her way, so that we don't have the time of the morning being as much of an issue. I'm sure he'd be willing to do that if he could have 4 hours on a Saturday.
What do you do with the child, ma'am, when you have to work on that Saturday? Do you take it to grandma's, or where does he or she go?
You're still muted, Sarah. Sarah, you're still muted. Judge did not hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I can't hear you.
Okay, there we go. He goes to his grandma's that lives about 15 minutes down the road. So I typically don't have to get him up any earlier than I usually do during the week for when I take him to the neighbor's house.
I just wanted to look. I thought with the 4-hour rule that the parent wanting to utilize did all the transportation, but I want to read it again. When you are working during the week, your other work schedule, Miss Dietrich, who babysits the child? What do you do for daycare?
The neighbor lady next door to me does.
All right, so the neighbor lady does the daycare during the week, but on Saturday, the child goes to grandma's.
But sometimes grandma will come here too to watch him if I don't have to work 3 hours.
And what time would you typically be going in then on Saturday?
7. It's the same time every day.
Mr. Beach, if she were to go in at 7, let's say I switched it, so you have to pick up if you want to exercise the 4-hour time. If she were to go in at 7, would you, I mean, you'd get up at 6 to go pick up your child?
Yeah, so I had mentioned to her previously that I would meet her at her work to pick him up. And then meet at our halfway point afterwards.
Oh, so she would just take him to work and you would just
Right.
meet her there and pick him up from her there.
Yes. That way there wasn't any extra driving in the morning. And then afterwards, we would just meet at our halfway point that we normally meet at.
How much time in advance, Miss Dietrich, do you get notified that you might have to work a Saturday?
2 days.
Yeah. And they're known for you going in on a Saturday and then you turning right away and going back home on occasion, right? Magna sometimes will tell them they have to work overtime, tell them to come in, they'll all get up early and drive in and then they'll send them home.
Yeah. Saturday I went in at 7 and I got out at noon.
That's 5 hours. That's 5 hours.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Sure.
Even if Mr. Beach drives all the way over and picks the child up at, say, 6:45 at her place of employment, he then has an hour and a half to travel back to his home in Holland. So I can't do math quickly, but say it's 8:30. And then if he has to return the child, it's another 45-minute drive for him to get to the halfway point. So he's got, I'm guessing, an hour of actual time to interact with the child. For that 4-hour block. I just don't see the benefit in doing all of this extra driving, costing my client additional money, having to go drive to the halfway point. He's already got parenting time pursuant to the Newaygo County policy. I just think this is excessive for my client to have to accommodate.
And this child is under 1, right?
Under the age of 1, yes, Your Honor.
So he's doing Wednesday 5 to 8 and Sunday 12 to 6?
No, he's just doing Sundays.
By
He's
his
doing
own choice.
Sundays from 8 until 5.
And why isn't he doing, he's doing Sunday, from 8 in the morning till 5 PM?
Yes.
Yeah, he gave up his Wednesdays and we added it on to Sundays. Again, because of the drive.
Yeah, really, that was because of his work schedule, not because of the drive.
He turns, the child turns 1 in September.
Yes,
Correct.
Your Honor.
This is really only an issue until September, because in September, he's gonna have an overnight Friday.
Saturday, I
He's gonna have
think.
an overnight Saturday to Sunday.
Yeah, so it really is only an issue for about 6 months.
What does he get? Out of the last 4 Saturdays, how many have you worked, Miss Dietrich?
I know I worked a couple weeks ago for only like 3 hours because I had a kid cover me, and then I just worked this Saturday, but I let Jared take him and we swapped days so that I didn't miss out on for the whole weekend for having him.
Oh, so you took him this past Saturday instead of Sunday?
Yeah, why don't you just switch it to Saturdays?
We could, I don't work a lot of Saturdays.
I mean, why don't you just switch his, instead of him exercising parenting time all day on Sunday, why don't you just do it all day on Saturday?
We could. He would just have to get up earlier because if he gets them Saturdays, I'll just work and then he can just take them. He'd have to be at my work or we'd have to figure that schedule out.
Well, even right now, he's gonna pick him up at 8, which means you're leaving the house at what? If you're meeting at a halfway point, you're leaving your house on Sundays at what, 7 to meet him?
Yeah, I leave at 7 if I don't have to work.
I'd be fine with Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
as long as I get the same amount of
Hey,
time.
what difference does it make?
Yeah.
If it's Saturday,
Any
Sunday, no
different, I
switch.
mean, why couldn't we just switch it to Saturday until September?
That works for me.
I agree with, so my point is, I agree with Miss Barnes in that it makes no sense to get the little one up early, drive in the car where he or she might fall back asleep or be a pill the rest of the day because you had to get him up early. And then, you're gonna have very little time at home with him or her, plus the roads. Now we're kind of getting out of that for the next 6 months. And then turn around and drive back. I mean, that's really not gonna be very fun for anyone. However, if she's working a longer period of time on a Saturday, I can certainly see why dad would want to have some time with the child. My thought would be for the next 6 months to just switch it and have him do the Saturdays instead of the Sundays. That gets rid of the whole problem. And then she can work on those Saturdays for 6 months and in September, go back to that reasonable parenting time policy. I'm not a huge fan of the 4-hour rule. There are a lot of reasons it's good for parties, but in most circumstances, it is problematic. So, and if he was only always going to grandma's, I would probably just say, well, grandma gets some time with him, because that's my philosophy. But so that would be my suggestion, to just switch it from Saturday or from Sunday to Saturday until he or she turns 1.
Would the driving change if I had to work?
Yeah, you guys are meeting at a halfway point.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
still,
he could
so I have to get up at 4 o'clock.
pick up at work.
Is there
He's
any
still-
reason that he couldn't pick up at,
Work. He's still willing to pick him up at work.
great,
That way she just has to make one drive. She just goes to work. He'll meet her there and pick up the child at work.
and then they'll meet at the halfway point after?
Yeah.
Okay. Good,
That
Ms.
worked for the-
Dietrich?
Yeah.
All right. So communication is the key, right? I mean, obviously, Mr. Beach, with this schedule, if there's any chance that you're not going to be able to do that pickup, you really need to stay in communication with her on that Friday night, because she's got very little wiggle room in the morning to find daycare so that she can get to work on time. So obviously, it's just important that you guys are communicating if you think you're not going to be able to exercise that.
So are we whoops. Here to change from, are we changing every Sunday to every Saturday? I'm just trying to make sure what we are agreeing to here.
That's what I would suggest, just to
Do we
keep
have
it
full
clean.
agreement from everybody? I haven't heard from the defendant on this, really. Is that okay with you guys?
Ms. Dietrich already confirmed that she's willing to do that, and if she's willing to do it, I will endorse it.
That's fine.
Great, okay, all right.
In regard to the medical insurance, I'll let you guys talk about that. It seems Ms. Barnes doesn't know. It's pretty typical that we tell everyone they have to get it. A lot of times not both people do get it. I am fine with him not having insurance. He is paying a significant amount. If he's still covered under his parents' insurance and this child has insurance through mom, I'm fine with that. I'm assuming child support was based on mom paying out that support or that medical anyway. So I'm fine with that. I'm not gonna make a ruling one way or the other. I'll let Ms. Barnes talk to her client. That seems fine to me. In regard to the last name, I don't require people to change the last name in this day and age when there are multiple kids. A lot of times with multiple different blended families, it's just complicated to get into the name game. I know for some dads, that's a hard sell. I often encourage people to think about hyphenated, but hyphenated adds a whole nother element of problems sometimes for these kiddos, as far as passports and all the security we go through these days. So, you know, I would never make that ruling that she's required to add his last name or change the last name. Obviously, dad is entitled to be on the birth certificate. I think those are the issues you asked me about.
Yep.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
No, thank you, Your Honor.
I give you guys all the credit in the world, both of you. This is a little baby. Little ones are hard to share. I tell people all the time, the older they get, the easier they are to share. Parents are ready for a break. Miss Dietrich and Mr. Beach, I give you a lot of credit for sharing this one so little. So hard to give up time, so hard to trust the other parent. I can just tell you both that as you navigate this, the more communication you have, the better. If dad calls and is just missing him, send him a picture, say he's fine, answer the text. It only takes a second and it can really help both parents feel better and not miss the child as much when he's not with you or she. I give you guys a lot of credit. I hope that you continue to be able to work these things out without all of us or without so much help from all of us. And I'll wait for that order to come. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Your Honor.
you.
Thank you.
We're
We'll
adjourned.
finalize the details and get that out to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.